Hey fam, we're going to talk a little bit today about when you are with someone and you have to be their personal cheering squad. Um, this is something different and separate from being with someone where you are hyping each other up, you are building each other up. It is a mutual admiration of each other where your shared goal is to help to elevate your partner to their highest level. That is something to be commended. But what I want to talk about is a dysfunctional dynamic that you'll often see in relationships where one person is all, woe is me, my life's terrible, everything's going wrong, and the other partner is put in a position in an effort to motivate, uplift, console, whatever the case may be. They feel like they have to constantly be the other person's cheerleader. And at no point in time are they receiving that same treatment back to them. So it's it's a dynamic that's extremely draining because you have to be this person's personal cheering squad, like a one man cheering or one woman cheering squad. You're constantly validating, constantly complimenting, and no matter what you do, this other person who is just kind of vampirical in their need for admiration, they're never going to be satisfied. You are going to constantly give and give and give. You're going to be drained from doing so, and there is no reciprocity. You will not get that given back to you. So, I want to talk about this because a lot of times the way that this plays out is there are some issues within that individual, whether it be low self esteem, whatever the case may be. They are battling their own inner demons. And rather than doing the self work to face those and address those on their own, they drag other people into it. They drag people into their situation. They drain their emotional well being so that they can get validated. And I'm sure that you can relate to this if you've ever been in a situation where every time you hear from someone, there's something awful going on. They're never really happy, they're never satisfied, they're always miserable on some level about something. And it almost becomes a case of where they have to one up themselves. So they'll be miserable about maybe something minor, but then it'll escalate and it'll escalate and it'll escalate to the point where you feel like you're an unwilling participant in the Victim Olympics and you have to somehow survive this victim narrative that they have projected onto their own life because it's not even based in reality. It's just their perception of events. It is their negative mindset. They can't see the blessings that they have. They're not grateful for anything. And they are just solely focused on the negative, and it impacts everyone around them. So you've got a couple of options in this dynamic. You can bail and save yourself. That would be my recommendation. Or you can continue to be parasited off of by this person who, like I said, is never going to be satisfied. There's no amount of validation, there's no amount of praise that you can give this person where it'll ever be enough. There has to be an internal locus of control in the individual that is not ever going to exist in a person like that. Because of them constantly seeking outside validation, they have no ability to self regulate. They can't do the internal work because their sense of self comes solely from outside of themselves. If you're someone who is struggling with this dynamic, as uncomfortable as this might be to hear, the absolute healthiest thing for you, if you are this type of individual where you're constantly needing validation from other people, the healthiest thing for you would be to be put in a situation where you were forced to live in isolation, where you couldn't rely on other people's outside validation. Because what you would discover in that isolation process is that you would be forced to develop a centralized locus of control, and you would develop the ability to self regulate, and you would develop a certain level of increased maturity in the way that you not only handle your own emotional state, but in the way that you interact with other people in the world. So I just felt like talking about this tonight. I felt inspired to talk about this. And yeah, as someone who has been re- relationally involved with people in the past that were extremely self centered and had to be the central focus and could never really permit me to shine because that would in some way threaten or intimidate or whatever those other individuals, I can definitely say that when I see this in other people, it is like an instant turn off. So if I see this sort of conduct and behavior in other people, I lose absolutely all interest, because I am the type of person that I love to praise other people. I love to validate other people. But if I notice that that's a one way street with that person, I just, yeah, I cut it off. And I don't care how good looking they are. I don't care how many accolades they have. I don't care how popular they are. Like, I just don't care. Because you can be gorgeous on the outside and at the same time extremely self absorbed. And I feel like that level of self absorption can become quite a turnoff. So I don't know. That's just something that I've experienced multiple times, unfortunately. And I just have no tolerance for it anymore. So, anyway, if this resonated with you, feel free to leave a comment. I I can say that I have learned from those errors in judgment of my past in my relationships, and it's probably one of the many reasons that I've chosen not to be in any sort of relationships for nearly a decade now, because it's just so much more peaceful. And I can actually do a lot of internal work, a lot of self work. I can make sure that I am set up for, hopefully not having to work for the rest of my life. My goal is to, be able to retire comfortably someday. And from my past situationships, I would say that I was never really in a situation where I was being supported in such a way that it facilitated my being able to protect myself financially in my older years. So, my sole focus at this point in my life is to make sure that my finances are in order so that I will be able to not have to continue to work for the rest of my life with ongoing medical issues, which are specifically the back injury that I sustained when I worked at the post office. So, yeah, I'm just doing the best I can to take care of me. That kind of has to be my primary focus because nobody else is going to do it. And quite honestly, the statistics show that anytime a female comes down with any kind of chronic medical condition, medical illness, whatever the case may be, they are more likely to be abandoned and left. So I learned, I guess you would say, the hard way, that self reliance is really the only way that I'm probably going to ensure my own survival. So yeah, my willingness to participate in someone else's pity party is pretty much non existent. But good luck with the Victim Olympics, those of you out there that are participating. I hope you win all the blue ribbons that you're going after. Have a good night.